I was watching Scott this morning, and he was saying within 2 months. But, you know, in the meantime, we want to lose as few people as possible. So important. And what is the number as of this morning? Is it 32? You could tell me. Is it 32 deaths? See, around there. I mean, think of it. The United States, because of what I did and what the administration did with China, we have 32 deaths at this point. Other countries that are smaller countries have many, many deaths. 32 is a lot. 32 is too many. But when you look at the kind of numbers that you're seeing coming out of other countries, it's pretty amazing when you think of it. So that's it.
Are you going to invoke the Stafford Act today, declaring an
well, we have things that I can do. We have very strong emergency powers under the Stafford Act, and we have it. I mean, I have it memorized practically as to the powers in that act. And if I need to do something, I'll do it. I have the right to do a lot of things that people don't even know about.
Are you going to do that today?
Well, I don't want to say that, but you know, at some point, it may be some of the more minor things at this point. But you know, look, we're in great shape compared to other places. We are in really good shape, and we want to keep it that way. That's why I did the ban with respect to Europe.
Emergency actions that you can take last night.
I have a lot of emergency actions that I can take. Yeah.
What are you looking at to help American workers?
Well, we're looking at a lot of things, including paid leave, and we're looking at many things. We're also making sure they're going to get their salaries. We have other workers, too, and those are people that work for tips, and nobody thinks about them, and we're including them in a lot of our schedules. We're also making sure that the companies, which are good companies, stay solvent, have the money necessary to keep functioning. So we have a lot of things that we're working on with the financial markets, and it's going to work out fine. You know, you have to remember the stock market, as an example, is still much higher than when I got here, and it's taken a big hit, but it's going to all bounce back, and it's going to bounce back very big at the right time.
When will you decide, though, for the American workers, what steps?
Well, we're deciding right now, and we're dealing also, prior to even the Stafford Act, we're dealing with the Democrats in Congress. We'll see what can be done. I happen to think that a payroll tax cut would be a very good idea. Distributes it very evenly among middle class and other workers. I mean, many workers. It would be a great thing. I happen to think it would be a great thing even beyond this. Okay, so we're looking at the payroll tax cut, and that won't come immediately because that's a stronger measure. But we are looking to do that, and I think at the right time, Congress will probably go along with it because it really is the most sensible thing. We had the biggest bankers in the world here yesterday getting their opinions. They all thought payroll tax cut would be a great thing. It would evenly and quickly distribute a lot of money.
Do you support the House bill, the House Democrat bill?
No, because there are things in there that have nothing to do with what we're talking about. So, you know, it's not a way for them to get some of the goodies that they haven't been able to get for the last 25 years.
But will our citizens always be welcome to America?
Always, just like your prime minister, always. They will be not only welcome, loved. We have millions. What is the number now, would you say? It changes every year. It gets actually bigger.
Yeah, well, about 35 million are,
can you imagine?
Irish,
it's got to be one of our. It's got to be one of our biggest. Now we love the Irish.
Do you support Irish citizens getting access to the E3 visa?
We're going to be looking at that. We're going to be talking about that today. It's a very important part of our conversation. That's going to be actually a very important part of our conversation today.
They're concerned about Huawei, Chinese telecom company, and its operations and connections with countries like Ireland. Is that going to come?
Well, I think there's a lack of security. If they use Huawei, there's a real problem with intelligence and intelligence security, and we'll see what happens. We'll be discussing that point also.
Mr. President, can an American still bring back coronavirus under this new travel restriction?
Can I what?
Can an American still bring back coronavirus?
Sure, but we have them very heavily tested. If an American's coming back or anybody's coming back, we're testing. We have a tremendous testing setup where people coming in have to be tested. And if they are positive and if they're able to get through, because if they're not, we're not putting them on planes if it shows positive. But if they do come here, we're quarantined. It's going to be a pretty strong enforcement of quarantine. Look, the key is you have to have separation. We have to have separation or this thing takes longer to go away. But the real really important, and I think you can say this for your country, I think we can say it for a lot of countries, for all countries, hopefully, it goes away. It's going away. We want it to go away with very, very few deaths. People have, we call it cases. How many cases do you have? Well, relative to other countries, we have very few cases. Relative to certain of the major countries that really have a bigger problem than us. We've offered just interestingly, I think we have the greatest doctors in the world. We've offered Iran assistance. Iran is having a tremendous problem. And we have offered Iran assistance. If they'd like it, we will help them. We'd be glad to help them.
Speaking of Iran, Mr. President, the Pentagon has determined that an Iranian-backed militia fired the rockets that killed 2 American soldiers in Iraq. Should they expect a response?
I'd rather not say, but let's just put it this way. You will see.
Mr. President.
Okay? But I can't say. I was working on that last night also. They sent a lot of rockets. Now, that hasn't been fully determined. It was Iran, as you know. It was a rebel group, but most likely it looked like it could be backed by Iran. And we'll see what the response is.
Mr. President, would you like to see the Prime Minister return to the White House next year? He's trying to form a government at home. Would you like to see him back
Well,
as
he's a
Prime
friend.
Minister?
I always want him to return because he's a friend. We've been doing this now for quite a while. We started off both new to the job, and yes, I would always like to see him. I know they have other people that I know and I get along with very well. Look, we get along with the country, but this is a very special guy.
We'd like to see you back in Ireland again
Well,
for a longer visit, I hope, next
we'll
time.
get
Would you like to see Mr. President re-elected in November?
That's of course a matter for the American people, but President Trump and any American president is always welcome in Ireland.
Mr. President, there's a report that a press aide to Bolsonaro, Brazil's Bolsonaro, may have the coronavirus. Are you aware of that? Because you were in contact with that person over the weekend.
I did hear something about that. We had dinner together in Florida, at Mar-a-Lago, with the entire delegation. I don't know if the press aide was there. If he was there, he was there. But we did nothing very unusual. We sat next to each other for a period of time, had a great conversation.
All right.
He's doing a terrific job in Brazil.